Okay, this is my first attempt at trying to record some of my ideas on how you should approach questions for A-level English language, particularly paper one. If you'd like to follow along, I recommend either taking a screenshot of this or finding your own copy of this text. I've taken this from the sample resources, the sample examination papers from Cambridge International. And this is question 2 on paper 1. The reason I'm starting out with this question is because it's probably the easiest. So for me, starting out with these lessons, which I'm recording, it's going to just make my life a little bit easier. Okay, so this is how I'd approach the question. It's always the same. I'm going to read the context at the start. So read the following text. It's an article. Okay, easy. So I know with regards to my purpose, hang on, let's see if I can change the shape of my pen because I'm picky. Right, there we are. With regards to my purpose of my article, I know it's going to be to inform. If I've got an article, it's going to be to inform. A secondary purpose is going to be to entertain. But primarily, it's going to be inform. So already there, I'm starting to think about the typical features of informative text. Which is, spoiler, they've got to have information in them. So I'm expecting lots of proper nouns. I could be expecting it to be laid out in quite a clear, easy to navigate type of way so that your reader can access the information that they need to access. I'm expecting things to be explained to me as well. With entertaining text, I'm expecting perhaps a little bit of humour, a little bit more playfulness with the language use, and I'll keep an eye out for that as we're reading. We know it's Australian, so we're going to expect a kind of Australian slant on this. We're expecting particularly Australian information. But I suppose more than that is it's a food website. So obviously Australian, duh. But I'm expecting food-specific jargon, right? The language particular to a certain area. It's about a successful pastry chef called Helen Go. I'm sure she's very successful. Have I heard of her? Not yet. So it says, analyze the text focusing on form, structure, and language. Structure and language, most people very confident on. Structure obviously includes things like the whole text, but can be taken down to sentence level, so sentence types, and even clauses or organization of words within a sentence, right? Very, very specific from the big things to the small things. Other way you could look at it is language, which is obviously the words that are used. So you're expected to know your terminology. I can't teach you all of that, not in a 15-minute video. Form is a little trickier because the word doesn't really correspond to what it means. The form is essentially the context, the audience, and the purpose. So our context in this case is it's an article. Our audience, we're expecting to be foodies. It could be a potentially wide audience, as we know it's a website, but mostly it's going to be foodies. Our purpose is obviously inform and entertain. I'm going to just write I&E there as a little reminder. So, with that in mind, now we can actually start looking at the text. I am only going to do the first 3 paragraphs and the title. And I'm doing this just because for time, and also I can go into too much detail, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do. So, let's have a look at the title. It is a very rich title, this one. I'm going to do some rubbing out. I'm going to say goodbye to my context, audience, and purpose. There we are. I need the space. Sorry. There we are. You'll have to memorize that. So, meet Helen Go. That's an interesting verb. It's quite an instructional verb, so I could probably say it's an imperative verb. We as a reader, we kind of feel invited. And again, it's meeting that informative yet playful tone. We're introduced to Helen Go. We know she's from Melbourne, and we know she has something to do with a guy called Ottolenghi. So 3 of those, I've got some proper nouns. Why? Well, that's meeting my informative purpose. I'm not expected to know who these are. Helen Go, the mobile woman, Ottolenghi is sweet on. Oh, what a nice food pun. Why have they used a food pun? Well, I could say because the secondary purpose. Why have I written secondary like that? I've never done that in my life, but I've done it. Our secondary purpose is to entertain, and we've got a foodie audience. People who love food. It's playful. We're expecting a kind of sweet introduction. Okay, so for Helen Go, baker and psychologist. Damn, she sounds cool. Let's do Anita line. Again, being picky. So she's a baker and psychologist. I've got a nice little embedded clause here. So it offers kind of what I want to say easily digestible information, but that's because I'm thinking about food puns. But kind of accessible information. Why? Probably because I want to meet my informative purpose. Yeah. Creating cakes and easing troubled minds. I like that. We've got this kind of double verbs here with my present progressive, pres prog, ing. So we know it's ongoing. We know she has many talents. So in terms of how we're being presented, this person, yeah, I just got a message. Sorry, I just got distracted. In terms of how we're presenting this person, she's multifaceted, and she's proactive. It was Ottolenghi's first yo-yo biscuit that did it. What an interesting little phrase. So we know that this is, if you've read the text, it's Australian biscuit. So again, we're meeting our kind of audience. It's a classic Australian. There it is. A double-layered melting moment with buttercream filling. Sounds gorgeous. One fateful day in 2006. So again, I'm meeting my informative purpose with that little clause. Recently arrived Melbourne recruit Helen Go gently lamented that there were no biscuits among the patisserie cakes at Ottolenghi's cafe. A yo-yo and an Anzac and a cup of tea was exactly what she hankered for after a hard, hand-blistering shift, chopping butternut pumpkins. If you hear something in the background, that is my dog. So I've got some interesting word choices here, which I quite like the look of. I like gently lamented. I might extend that so I can have the whole phrase. Gorgeous. I even liked hard hand blistering shift. Even chopping butternut pumpkins there. I quite like, let's do some priorities, Mr. Madden. I quite like this bit at the end. I mean, I could look at it all, but let's slow down a bit. I've got playful use of phonology. And it's okay identifying that, but I need to say what it's kind of used for, with what purpose, why bother, you know? And whenever we're using certain sounds in language, we're wanting to, in a language text anyway, in literature it's used differently, but in language we're wanting to place emphasis on those words. So the use of the H sound, and which is a fricative. I know it's a fricative because it creates friction when I'm saying it. Haha, hard hand blistering. And also the repetition of these plosive sounds, B and P. And we know these are plosive because there's a little explosion when I say them. Chopping butternut pumpkins. So, okay, I've identified playful use of phonology, but again, why bother? Emphasizing the, let's just say, the hardworking nature of Go. And also adding a bit of entertainment as well. There's a bit of, with the use of those sounds, with the use of those particular words, those lexical choices, it's I feel like I've already said it, but it is playful. It's good fun. Looking at my next paragraph, I've got some typical features of an article. I've got reported speech. All right, so general things I can say. It makes it more reliable. We get an idea of Helen as a person. She's not just some abstract thing. We can actually hear from her. I was a bit sheepish because they're so normal. Oh, nice little idiom. I like that. They're normal in Australia, but you absolutely love them. We started making them for the cafe, and they sold really well. Anzac biscuits followed soon after. Go characterises herself as a traditionalist, whereas she says Ottolenghi can't resist changing things. Interesting. So I've got these two characters. They are juxtaposed. Traditionalist. So I've got my kind of, let's see, I reckon that's a common noun. I've got a general label. Whereas she says Ottolenghi can't resist changing things. So I've just got that whole phrase, haven't I? It's not quite as simple as a common noun. He's less bound by the traditional. He's always saying, what can we add? We call it Ottolengifying something. Aha, there is my nice little bit of terminology I can use to contrast traditionalist. I've got a neologism. It's a new word. It's playful. Again, we've got that kind of use of the complex language, but it's being playful. I like it. It's good fun. When he Ottolenghified Anzacs, adding sultanas and lemon zest, the response from Australia was swift and outrage. He cares less about making an Anzac than making a biscuit that tastes really, really good, says Go. Okay, so obviously I've gone at this, I'd say, quite fast. And in too much detail in some places, and other places I've glanced over. Each person, the way that we analyse this is going to be completely different. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, and you might have noticed things that I didn't. And that's wonderful. That's a wonderful thing about English. There are lots of right answers, but there are also lots of wrong answers. I am only trying to show you my way of approaching this question. So the way I would do it, because this question is so big, is so vast, is obviously I'd read through it, I'd annotate things that jumped out to me, things that I thought I could say something about or felt inspiring to me in some way. Then I try and organise my thoughts. And I've been teaching this for 6 years. I would not approach this question without organising it first. I find it impossible. If you can do that, well done you. But I imagine the essays that you're writing are probably